Hello and welcome back to Jurassic World Evolution 2, where today we'll be continuing on with the Jurassic Park 2023 speed build. Now I have a bit to talk about when it comes to this park, so I'm not going to waste too much time because there are a couple other things I'd like to talk about. Like I said at the start, and I think I've said this pretty much with every single one of these speed build videos now, I don't want it to be me just waffling on about stuff like I'm doing now. I want to actually talk about something, whether that may be something to do with the franchise or something to do with park building, like tips or something about the game, like literally anything. That's not just me going, now we're putting down a viewing gallery for the baryonyx enclosure, which you see right now. Like that, it's not very interesting. There's no point with you really watching with audio if it's just going to be that. So I'd like to make it a bit more interesting. But this park, I am happy with it. This is still one of my best parks I've built, if not my best park. But I kind of reached a point where now that I've finished this top section, and next video we'll be moving on to the lower section, but now that I've finished that, I've kind of realized maybe it's not as good as I previously thought. Those first two episodes that I'd done, I was really happy with how the park was going. It looked great. As the third one came around, it's alright. That third part took me a while to do, as I said in the last video, but I now realize upon completing this one and giving the overview shots that I could have probably done a little better. As you notice with the park, it's very uninspiring, I guess. I mean, the guest areas look good. I've put in a lot of detail. I am happy with it. I'll say that again. I am happy with the park, but there's no, like, when you're looking at it from above, there's no real eye-catching thing. There's no, like, interesting path work or anything. It's just, okay, we've got the guest areas designated by the fancy path, and then everything around that is designated by the grey basic path. And sure, the guest areas do have some, like, circles with gardens in them or water. I don't know, ponds, I guess. Yeah, ponds. I don't know why I'm so confused about that, but anyway. There is a bit of interesting stuff, but it's very plain. I mean, that's not a bad thing, you know. It's fine. At the end of the day, it doesn't need to be very grand and spectacular with this crazy path art, like making the Jurassic Park logo out of paths just to make it look a bit interesting. It doesn't need any of that, but it just feels like it's lacking that wow factor, I guess. And maybe this is me just being overly critical of myself. Maybe if I were to see someone else do this park, I'd be like, wow, that's actually a pretty decent park. So yeah, I don't know. Also, in the last speed build series I did, the Jurassic Park 2023, the Jurassic Park San Diego build that I did, my goal, especially towards the end, was to make each enclosure look unique to each other. So, I'd have different kind of ecosystems, I guess you can say, different biomes. I don't know, that's all under the desert biome, but different environments under this one biome. So, I'd have maybe a more rocky enclosure followed by a oasis type enclosure. Whereas with this one, I feel like I've kept it relatively the same across the board. I haven't done anything particularly amazing. It's usually just been the same kind of tropical enclosure, and they look pretty decent. I'm usually pretty happy with how my enclosures look, but it's similar to the paths. There's nothing too special about them. The only way I've really deviated was with the baryonyx enclosure, where I've done the more swampy kind of enclosure, I guess you could say, with the small islands where it's mainly made up of water, but there are those small islands with foliage on them. But I feel like I could do a bit better of a job. So with that being said, hopefully with that lower section, I'm gonna make it in this little headcanon that I'm making here for this park, that's the kind of newer section. They've expanded out. They've originally we're just going to keep it to this top part. It was doing really well, and they thought maybe we can expand this. So they're going to expand it down to that lower section. This is whoever's running Jurassic Park at this point, because assuming John Hammond, rest in peace, has already passed away. So yeah, someone else has taken over. Maybe it is Masrani Global that has taken over. I don't know. That's up for you to decide. But yeah, I'm imagining that they've decided to expand. Maybe they moved some of their original species down to that bottom section where it is more up to date, I guess, with a more different layout. Not different to the point where it seems like an entirely different park, but different enough that like it seems okay, this was more recently built. So I'm still going to stick to the Jurassic Park building style, or building set I should say, with, you know, the thatched roofs and everything. But I'm going to look into maybe different ways to lay out the park, and also varying it up with the enclosures, trying to make them a bit more interesting, like I was saying before, make them a bit more exciting to look at. Also with this top section, even after update 6, I wanted to keep it relatively constant. I didn't want to use any of the new foliage. I kind of cheated on that with the Sinosauropteryx enclosure. Sinosauropteryx enclosure you're going to see in a bit. I lined that with both the temperate planter and the tropical planter, just because I think the temperate one looks, you know, it works pretty well on this map. Yeah, that was the only way I really cheated. So after that, I'm going to then, on the lower level, I'm going to make more enclosures that use these new foliage items, you know, and but not just the enclosures, but also the guest areas, just so it feels a bit more unique from the rest of the park. So it's, yeah, like I keep saying, it's just more interesting to look at that way. Also, you're seeing it here on the Dinosaur enclosure I'm building, that the fish feeders, for some reason, when you like use a terrain paint around them, it just stays as dirt for some reason in this weird rectangle shape. So I don't know what's going on there. It was doing that before the update too, but apparently if you just delete the feeders and then put whatever terrain paint you're using underneath, then it will come up with that terrain paint. Other than the grass, of course, because you can't like overlap that with buildings. That'll always be dirt underneath unless you have either sand or rock or something, if that makes sense. That sounds weird. But anyway, back to what I was saying before. I kind of got a bit off topic there. An example of like a different style of enclosure that I want to do for that lower section is with the T-Rex enclosure. I want to make it kind of similar to the Lost World with the redwoods, and I'll probably do it with a couple other enclosures too, not just the T-Rex enclosure, that kind of redwood style, because obviously we see that in the Lost World Jurassic Park. So obviously there are redwoods in Los Cinco Muertes, even though Nublar is not part of that island chain, but you know, it's in the same area, I guess you can say, so it would make sense for there to maybe be some redwoods on there. And in the T-Rex enclosure you see in Jurassic World, you see those more kind of redwood style of trees. That's kind of what the log's based on, the log viewing gallery is based on. So it kind of makes sense, I guess. But yeah, that should be good. I've honestly run out of things to say here. I had other stuff planned. I was going to talk a bit about the update, but I'm probably going to do a separate video on that. Maybe that video has already come out. I don't know. It depends how timing goes with this one. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to want to make its own video, because that is such a wild update, such a spectacular update, that I feel like it deserves its own video, because usually I'd only do something like that for the like big expansions. I didn't do it for the Malta expansion because honestly I just couldn't be bothered. But I did for the Biosyn expansion. That video did pretty well, so I think I might do that again for this one. Just leave a bit of a review. It's going to be a positive review if I'm going to be honest, but there are a few things I need to talk about. For example, you'll see it here. I'm not going to use the cinematic camera for the overview shots at the end here. One, because that gives shots from all across the park, and two, it's not amazing. It's not what I was hoping for. It's very laggy. I don't know if that's because this is such a huge map and it's so packed together. But if you have a lot of the camera options ticked on, then the transitions are very laggy. I found that if you only have it, say, as paths and dinosaurs or something, it's okay. But the more you have ticked off, say you have paths, hotels, dinosaurs, viewing galleries, tours, panoramic shots, it's the more options you have on, the laggier it is. It needs a bit of optimizing, but yeah, the second reason why I didn't do it is obviously, I'm pretty sure I already said this actually now that I think about it, that obviously, yeah, I did say this, it goes all around the park and it wouldn't just stay focused on this section I'm trying to show off. And I probably won't use it for the tour at the end. I'll probably just do that all manually, and then I can get, I'll use a mix of both, because then I've got shots from there which work really well. Just playing around with it now, you can get some pretty decent shots, but you don't get all that cinematic, you don't get the dynamic kind of camera angles that you'd want in a more cinematic style. It just kind of follows the dinosaurs around, or gives you angles from the viewing galleries, which is fine. But yeah, I really want to make this tour special when I do it. So yeah, and I don't think just using the cinematic camera will be enough. Also, I don't know why, but when I tried it on this park just to test it out, the path view really liked the paths near the lagoon. It would be, here's an angle of the path near the lagoon, and then cut to the next one. Oh, here it is again, just a different part of that path. Okay, we'll go to a random part of your park, back to the lagoon again, back to the park, back to the lagoon. It really liked the path near the lagoon. I don't know why. It hardly showed anything around the park. It was just by the lagoon. So yeah, I don't know if it favors areas that are closer to the high-profile dinosaurs, or the high-profile enclosures, I should say. But then again, the Dinosaur enclosure, you'd think it would like to hang around there because the rating around there is quite high. So yeah, I don't know why it doesn't go near there. But yeah, we're kind of approaching the end of the video here, so I'm gonna sign off. Thank you all so much for watching. I do really hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!